This is the this is the ice bath of politics. Listening to Tim Pool and fucking Bobert. Woo! That'll get your blood going. Oh my god, I hate these people. Well, I don't know. Probably fair to say I'm not a big fan of them.
We've got videos coming out that the LA riots are not just in LA. We had arrests yesterday in Dallas, protests in Austin. There's somewhere of 16, I think, protests across this country. And it's shocking to me because this is what the American people elected Trump to do. Immigration was the second most popular issue. And we had the mayor of LA outright saying that it was the immigration enforcement raids that incited the violence. So I'm curious your take on everything that's going on, where we should go, what should be happening.
Yes, well, we all know that Los Angeles is the largest sanctuary city in America. And then, of course, California's policies at a state level don't help much. So you have Mayor Bass and you have Governor Newsom, who are absolutely running California and Los Angeles into the ground. You have members of Congress who are showing up and harassing law enforcement officers, federal agents, local police, and they are discouraging President Trump from delivering on the mandate that he was given when he was elected by an overwhelming majority here in the last election. So these Democrats have invited crime. We see the looting that is going on. The poor store owners can't even do anything about it because of the policies in California. And it is not ICE or the presence thereof of ICE or them actually doing their job and removing illegal aliens from our country that is provoking all of this chaos. Of course, you were seeing the uprisings all throughout the country now in certain larger Democrat-run cities. And I expect to see even more of those because this is what happens. It's like Summer of Love Part 2. So President Trump should not back down. If anything, he needs to be more strict on Mexico and on their president, who is saying that they don't want to pay.
The ice raids, you could probably say that's what people voted for. That's to some degree not that unfair of a statement. The National Guard, though, I don't know about that one.
Any tax on remittance. So we hear this argument all the time from the left. Well, who's going to do these jobs for us? And, they're just here. They're just good people and they want to pay their taxes and they want to work. Well, yeah, they're also sending their money out of the United States and sending it down to Mexico. So we need to be taxing that. That's long overdue. Charlie Kirk even talked about that yesterday. But in all of this, President Trump is doing exactly what he was elected to do. Overwhelmingly, he was elected because we had an invasion at the southern border. California is a big problem there. It's a big part of that invasion.
How you doing, brother? Welcome. Yeah, sorry, I was late today. Had some errands, and I woke up late. How you doing? This scrolling newsfeed thing, I spent a lot of the morning beating ChatGPT to a pulp to get it to work. But it only draws from New York Times. So I can't get Reuters or any other source to work, so I'm gonna have to take the hammer back to the GPT.
California, Arizona, and in Texas, we're just overrun here. And so President Trump is doing exactly what he promised by removing these criminal illegal aliens out of our country. And for all of the people.
Well, is there another puzzle game you like to do or you prefer? Yeah, I mean, sometimes they get a little punny. They have a new, the New York Times must have a new writer, because their newer crosswords have not been that good, in my humble opinion.
People rising up and saying, oh, well, there's no due process, okay. Or well, they haven't done anything wrong. They haven't committed a crime. They committed a crime when they entered our country illegally. We have some 2 million gotaways, maybe, could be more than that, under Joe Biden's administration that came into our country. We don't know who they are. They were not vetted. They did not want to be apprehended by Border Patrol agents. This is a huge, huge problem. And if I could just tag on another a portion of this. Maybe we need to redo the last census that was done because were all of these illegals counted? How many people are actually legal there? And should California have lost some of their electoral votes? And if we can't redo that census, we darn well better get language on this next census that says you must be a United States citizen.
I think that's...
Any news on these anti-American riots? Like, not really. I mean, it's what you'd think. There's more of them. They're spreading. The radical left protesting. I mean, obviously, I'm part of the quote unquote radical left. Yeah, there's a curfew now. ICE raids, charged with Molotovs. It's the same shit, just more area, I guess. But I just want to see what these fuckos have to say about it. Yeah, I mean, booze or gas is easy to get, and so are rags. So, I mean, they're just easy to make. It's not an endorsement of them. I'm just saying. That's, like, just availability-wise. And people are lighting off, like, fireworks and shit, too.
It's pretty obvious Trump...
But what bugs me about what these fuckos are saying is that, you know, like, this is what the American people voted for. And it's like, yeah, but they don't approve of the National Guard, largely. Like, you know, what do we got? 75% of Republicans say they liked it. And then when you come to, like, the Marine deployment, even less approve. Or, yeah. Or, wait, hold on, I'm fucking tripping. Yeah, even less approve. And even less Republicans approve. Like, it's just like, the people voted. It is fair to say the people voted for stricter immigration enforcement. That's fair. And I think that's reasonable. I don't know if the people necessarily voted for the National Guard and the Marines. With marinery and, well, the Marines are there to protect the National Guard and federal property. The National Guard is there to assist the police. As that one gentleman pointed out yesterday. Yeah, I know. Exactly. But what I'm saying is these guys, like Tim Pool and Rep Bobert, are like, this is what the American people voted for. And it's just trying to tie all of it together. It's like it's a very classic move. I don't even think it's just Republicans that do it. Where it's like, what? So you're against enforcing the law? It's like, well, no, I'm not against enforcing the law, but like, I mean, come on, isn't this a little extreme and inflammatory? They're like, no, this is what the American people voted for. It's like, no, not really. The ICE, you know, being in places, that's fair. You could say that that's what the people voted for. Not this.
Trump wants the mass deportations because this is how Democrats cheat. California...
Also, her head is like more than half the width of her body. She's
has 52 congressional seats and electoral college votes, and they're getting it by bolstering their citizenry. I'm sorry, that's the wrong word, because they're bringing in illegal immigrants.
Right.
They're bringing in undocumented citizens. That's the phrase they're using now, so they can get extra votes. And then I was mentioning this earlier, and you can explain this better probably. In Congress, representatives cut deals with each other. They'll say, hey, vote for my bill, I'll vote for yours. But if California is giving themselves 10 extra seats, that means the state is getting more federal money. It's getting more access and influencing other states, maybe on the issue of, say, gun control, and they're doing it illicitly by bringing in non-citizens. So I want to ask you this. What's your position? I know that...
That's fair. I'm not asking you to support either side. I mean, I'll obviously advocate probably more so for left-leaning policies, just because I find them to be the most convincing, but happy to chat regardless, always. Like, I'm just here to read, mostly. Fling some shit every once in a while. But yeah, there's no ask that you agree with me on anything. Yeah. Why do you think I'm... Yes, I think so. As much as I'll buy, yeah. In their own way, yes. I do believe in the good intentions of most people. Even if, I really, really disagree with them. uh, yeah.
The big beautiful bill's
Let's
passed.
finish up this grocery.
The House. It's going to the Senate. I assume you're for Trump's big
You'd
beautiful
really
bill.
think.
Yes, I'm also of the mind that it could be stronger and it could be better. But yes, I voted for the bill when it came out of the House, certainly keep continuing to put pressure on the Senate. And ultimately, I do want this passed. This is a must-pass piece of legislation.
Supernova.
What does it give? Like $80 billion for CBP and ICE or something like that?
Yeah, so this is actually the largest funding that we've given to our Border Patrol agents in decades. And it actually provides the funding to secure the southern border. You even had Democrats over the weekend admitting that our...
We should do a stream where it's like incoherent fascism. Like I come in and just advocate for the most hardline shit, but none of the policies make sense. I don't know. Maybe for like an April Fool's or some shit. I don't know. We'll see. We could do like... I'll think on this because I think there's something there. I just need to flesh it out a little bit more. State-funded mandated battleship. You gonna crew that yourself?
Border is more secure than it has ever been, and that there are fewer crossings than there have been in decades. And that's all thanks to having a real president, not just an autopin, not just the first lady's chief of staff running the United States of America. We have a real leader, a real president who has taken the initiative to secure the border. But now the problem is in our interior and those 10, 15, maybe 20 million people who came into our country illegally.
Look, maybe it's a little heavy. I think Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act, as this is. I say this is... I'll be nice to say it's the lowest tier, but this is an invasion. I know you...
That would be part of the fascist thing. Having people below decks is actually oppressor ideology. In my new communo-fascist regime, everyone will own the rights to their labor. Now, does that mean it'll take you about a year to get one engine half started? Yes, but you'll own all the means of production.
You call it an invasion, but let's take it to where we are now. The president of Mexico, you mentioned, says no tax on remittances, but she actually said in a speech during these riots that Trump should stop the raids on the Mexican nationals in our country, and that people in the United States should stand with the Mexican nationals illegally in our country. Now, I know it's not a formal declaration of war or anything, but when you have the president sanctioning the illegal entry into our country and calling for people to defend those who are violently rioting and waving the flag of her country, I think Trump should say, guys, at some point we got to recognize this is a formal invasion.
Absolutely. And we know that for years that the cartel had operational control of our southern border. And they have sent their people into our country who are indebted to them. That's why they're sending the payments to Mexico. That's why this remittance tax is even being brought up for discussion right now, because so much of our money is leaving and going into Mexico. And to have the president of Mexico...
The border being more secure now, that is the only valid point so far. I mean, again, it's just it's trying to blend the National Guard and the Marines with the idea that this is what the people voted for in terms of enforcing the border, which they did vote for enforcing the border. That is true. the polling shows that people largely disagree with the National Guard and the Marines there.
Mexico say that we should stand with her nationals, Mexican nationals?
Yep.
Absolutely not. And just going back to how many electoral college votes there are, how many seats there are in the House of Representatives from California, I've seen more of them stand up for Ukraine rather than America. Right now, we do have an invasion at our southern border, and this is where we need to be focused. This has done more harm to our country than anywhere else in the world, and any other invasion that is taking place anywhere that we are always the first to step up and provide aid for. So this is something that does need to be addressed. I think President Trump is considering the Insurrection Act and implementing that. And I think that he should.
Yeah. I mean, how on earth can the leader of a country say to the people of another country, defend the illegals? Wait, did I miss something? Oh, fuck. Hold on. I mean, look, the people that are protesting ICE want to stay here. It's probably, like, if you're illegal and you're against ICE raids, you probably want to stay in the U.S. Now, waving the Mexican flag, is that a vow of allegiance to Mexico? Or, like, just saying, hey, I'm proud of, like, my heritage? I don't know. Or is it just protesters being stupid, as they tend to do?
I don't want to hear another Democrat ever mention January 6th again. I've been in communication with the FBI under this new administration. And, I think there's going to be a lot of information that is coming out that shows how many feds were involved in January 6th. I have said for years that this was more of a fedsurrection than an insurrection in Washington, D.C.
I don't want to hear another Democrat mention January 6th. Anyways, here's thy list of January 6th talking points. Fuck off.
And right now, you have Mexican nationals who are in LA, who are setting cars on fires, who are throwing stones at police officers, who are taunting them, intimidating them, spitting at them, and causing so much harm to these agents and these officers that this is an insurrection. Another country, a foreign country coming into our country.
I don't necessarily agree nor disagree with you. I think you have to go by the person. It's tough to say. Well, of course she's exaggerating, but like, I don't know. I don't know how much you've heard Bobert talk. It's not exactly a shining beacon of truth in politics. I don't know. The allegiance thing, it's tough to say, like, or ascribe allegiance en masse. Yeah, that's tough, but I don't want to, like, just hard disagree or full agree with you. I really do think it depends on the individual.
And creating this kind of chaos, and they might call it a peaceful protest, a demonstration. No, this is anarchy. This is an invasion. And I even have legislation that I'm working with the leadership to introduce my TDA Act. And this actually declares that Colorado had an invasion, and we can use the Illegal Aliens Act that the court didn't really approve of with President Trump, and have Congress put on the books that this is an invasion and the Illegal Alien Act can be used.
Master Liberty, what do you think of the invasion argument? Like, it doesn't really pass the smell test for me, but I'd be curious to hear your thought. Okay. Figures. Just
used. Okay. They want to throw the pass the buck back onto Congress. Well, then let's take a position and say that this is an invasion, and that can be used to remove them.
Oh wait, Master Leader, you said you code? Do you? okay, so I have the script for the scrolling news feed, and it's supposed to fetch a bunch of different sources, but it's only the RSS feed from the New York Times is working. Any suggestions?
So with the past 4 years, we had
Derek.
probably the
That's how you spell
laxest of
Derek.
all immigration systems,
God.
aside from
I
just
cannot
letting
spell.
anybody come in for any reason. The Biden administration also dropped their asylum hearings, creating de facto residency for these people. They no longer had to go to court and be challenged on whether they were really seeking asylum. It was all one big lie. One thing we ended up seeing recently from that was the attack in Colorado, where this man was screaming "Free Palestine" and then firebombed a bunch of peaceful protesters. Mm-hmm. This is the concern I think a lot of people have outside of. Look, there's people with Mexican flags torching vehicles. I mean, that's
I whipped
freaky.
this up in like. Just
but how many other?
Fun watching cars burn.
Just having fun. That's what they said in the media. And I kid you not.
I don't think it's working.
I think it was NBC said that the peaceful protest. What was it? I was bringing up when these rioters in D.C. threw a Molotov onto the White House grounds and torched a guard post and set fire to St. John's Church. NBC News says a peaceful protest turned destructive. But my question for you is, one of the concerns a lot of people have that there are going to be a lot of people who have entered this country illegally, either through the southern border, which is insane to think that Chinese nationals, Afghanis, Iranians were coming through the southern border. But
it's bait. Mexican terrorists armed with Molotovs. I mean, look, they're being arrested. I was reading some news earlier, and it was just like, these people have been arrested who are doing this. These people have been arrested. They were doing this. We could look into whether or not the people being arrested or for these crimes are either illegal, Mexican nationals. That'd be an interesting thing. Try and get some numbers on that. But what I'm really hoping for is just actual fucking numbers, because the only numbers are and this is quotes, like dozens, hundreds, about 1,000. That's all I got. That's all the sources have thus far. So
even this guy,
this is a tough one to do live,
from Egypt in Boulder, who just simply overstayed his visa. They are violent. They believe in violence. They do not agree with the American way of life. How, like, what is the average American citizen supposed to think right now, with all of that just lying underneath, this news story, that there are these potential security risks here?
That's why I would say to the average American citizen, don't think that it's not coming near you. This is all throughout the interior of our country, and it's not just Mexican nationals who are here. We've had over 150 countries that had their people come to our country illegally. And just as you said, they were completely dropping court cases and appearances. The Border Patrol agents used to issue notice to appears at the southern border when someone was seeking asylum.
Yeah, I don't.
Then they
like the growth of non-state actors as viable, as I guess potent threats. I don't know how much legislation there is on that, because he tried to do the Venezuela, declaring pseudo war on Venezuela for the gangs there. That argument I think is shaky at best. Are you baiting me or what's happening? Search them. I like how what we really need is some French protesters. Those fuckers, I'll give them that. They throw a mean protest.
Reduce that down to a notice to report. So just, hey, give us a phone call. Let us know where you are when you get there. It will even give you the phone to make the call on. They wanted to use tax dollars to pay for their lawyers, and it's so much more. They even wanted to give $450,000 checks to families who are separated at the border. Well, now we have border czar Tom Homan, who said, well, the whole family can just go back together and we'll just avoid that completely.
No, I know. It was a joke. I don't want, burning tires and piles of manure. We didn't tell her. yeah, no, I obviously am being hyperbolic when it comes to French protesters. The level of, imagine if like one French protest would send the U.S. like sky, like just have it implode. Yeah, there's a line. There's a difficult balance, but a possible one to strike, and it requires some sacrifice on a lot of ends, and just like instituting some policy that doesn't feel good. I say that as a liberal. I recognize the reality that sometimes you got to put in place policy that just doesn't feel good, and sometimes that means sacrificing some compassion for a recognition of a real situation. It's like, in this case, there is illegal immigration. There is some harm that it causes. And like, yeah. And it's better to have people allegiant to your country than not.
But we did see this violent attack from this Egyptian man in Boulder, Colorado. And now, unfortunately, Boulder, Colorado is one of our wokest cities. I think it's even worse than Denver. And the chief of police, after speaking directly with the heads of the FBI, was told that this was a targeted attack, that this was a terrorist attack, and he refused to say so. He refused to call them out. This is the chief of police in Boulder. And so the FBI said, to heck with you guys. We're going to send our guys in to investigate this. But it starts with burning the American flag. And then it ultimately ends with burning Americans. We had Americans who were set on fire in Boulder, Colorado by these Molotov cocktails. And the guy said that he would do it again. He said that he would absolutely do it again. And there was no remorse. And this is what we're seeing all throughout our country. And I think that these folks have been strategically placed throughout our country. And I pray that there is not an order that comes out from Iran or somewhere else for a larger kind of attack. We were seeing folks that were on the National Terror Watch List that were coming into our country. How many do we not know that came in? Right? So we're doing, we have a good start here. We have 47, we have 47 military personnel that were dispatched, 4,000 federalized National Guards in California, and then another 700 Marines. And those Marines are there to protect federal agents, federal buildings and property. But, if they don't slow this down, well, then we're going to have to get more aggressive. And that's where that Insurrection Act comes in again, and where President Trump is going to have to take a larger stand. But people throughout this country need to know that these Democrat policies, they are anti-American, and they would rather prop up an illegal citizen and virtue signal rather than standing for their own citizens and protecting their communities, their states, and our country.
You said illegal citizen, illegal immigrant. I think I made the same mistake earlier.
Did I say illegal citizen?
Yeah. I did the same thing. But yes, no, these illegal aliens.
Illegal citizen?
And no, they're not just undocumented immigrants. They are illegal aliens. That is the definition.
I think we have a very serious problem to consider. I know that Trump has brought up the issue of birthright citizenship, challenged it.
For real.
A lot of these people that are on the ground in LA waving the Mexican flag, there's a guy on video burning the American flag saying, "That's not my flag, this is," and they're American citizens. Because their parents came here illegally from Mexico or from Colombia or some Central American country. They were born here, but their parents raised them on the values of their native countries. And so while they're granted citizenship by birthright, they hate this country. They say, "Make California Mexico again." This is a difficult question for us to actually answer.
We're trying to bring everyone together.
I mean, maybe the simple.
As much as I'm not a huge fan of Musk. I like SpaceX. I like Tesla. It is a reality that a lot of the people, not the Tim Pools and the Boberts of the world, are probably closer than they think. And I'm not like both sides are the exact same and everyone agrees on everything, really. But we're closer than we think. And that's something good to focus on. Anyways.
Path is, from this point forward, birthright citizenship needs to be challenged. But we actually had a story, I'm not sure if you saw, a state rep, a Democrat in Minnesota.
Yes.
She
was
made
hoping this would come up.
She made the claim
Expert
that
witness,
her family
right?
entered the country illegally, and this
Expert
would mean she
testimony?
fraudulently
No, expert.
obtained citizenship as a minor and is now a
expert
politician in government in Minnesota. How do you deal with that?
This is something that the federal government absolutely needs to take up.
No,
the DOJ needs to be investigating this immediately.
A lot more
because if she is admitting that she is not a United States citizen, and neither are her parents, A, she shouldn't be here. B, no way she should be an elected official. I think even as woke as Minnesota.
My biggest thing is let people work, let people pay into the system, let people have some skin in the game for their communities, let their communities hire them. I think it just really, really helps with everything. It gives you like a sense of integration. Anyways.
Is that even their state constitution says you have to be a U.S. citizen to serve in office. And
yeah,
also,
that's
what
I
she voted in our elections. So all of these potential crimes, if she's really illegal, need to be investigated and prosecuted. The American people are tired of just hearings and investigations and strongly worded letters. We need action and prosecution. And those who are committing these crimes truly need to be held to the fullest account. And I think President Trump is the only one who has the gall to do that. So this has to be something that is addressed. You can't have a state representative just flaunting that she's here illegally voting in our systems and making laws in one of our states. This is absolutely insulting.
Well, so she came out afterwards saying, no, I am a citizen. I was, making a point of how my parents came here. And my response is that makes it worse. What she's saying, she said that her family knew they were ineligible to come to the United States from
used a fake name.
So he falsely listed his a different person as his grandparent so they could come to the United States. That would imply the citizenship was obtained fraudulently. So she is a citizen, which creates a very difficult circumstance for us. Do we say, okay, we forgive you for what, you and your family came here illegally and used that initial refugee status to then later apply for citizenship. And now just say, oh, but you're citizens, so I guess you get to stay forever. I think it's a very difficult question because it means at some point we're going to have to ask about sedition. And that is if an American citizen is actively subverting the will of this country, the American people, the people in California who are flying Mexican flags and burning vehicles down and torching buildings, they're citizens, but this is sedition. It's a difficult thing to address, and it's going to, I can't imagine how we deal with it.
Absolutely. Well, and our laws aren't there to say, well, only if you get caught or, ask for forgiveness, not permission. You don't have to follow the law. Just say you're sorry later and when all will be wiped away. That's not how this works here. But when you're talking about these folks waving the Mexican flag in California, they despise our country, whether they are anchor babies and they have that birthright citizenship or they're here illegally or their parents are here illegally, however that works. But if they despise America to the point where they will just cause destruction here rather than going to where they want to be, this is a huge problem. And it's interesting how the Democrats will defend this green, white, and red flag. But let's say it was a Russian flag. Now, we've heard of Russian collusion and Russians getting in election interfering with our elections. Well, we have Mexico interfering with our elections because in Colorado, anyone who is there illegally can be fast-tracked to obtain a Colorado's driver's license and can register to vote while they obtain that driver's license. There used to be a 2-year waiting period at least, but now this year, our woke, crazy Democrat state legislature said, nope, they don't have to wait 2 years. Immediately, they could come in and get.
Then I went to watch the Diamondbacks before the match. I sang the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is different than the national anthem. Pledge of Allegiance is like pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible. What the fuck? I forgot the rest of the Pledge of Allegiance. I said that shit every single day during high school. But I don't know. I really like when they sing the national anthem at sports games. Sports games, I sound like a fucking nerd. But like, I don't know. So all right, I'm gonna be real here for a second. Anything that's just a lot of people singing something in unison, or like even at church, especially Silent Night. I don't go to church very often anymore, but just I tear up. Well, you could just said, "Oh, really?" Well, that's a little disheartening.
Get a driver's license.
Did you mention
and
you were
that's
Italian?
that Egyptian who was throwing Molotov cocktails in Boulder. He obtained a Colorado license plate or a driver's license after his visa had expired. He was already overstaying his visa and was still able to get a Colorado's driver's license. So what if the tables were turned here? What if there were folks with a Russian flag waving it around, saying that they hate America and that Russia was going to take over? Would the Democrats be so sympathetic then? I don't think so. And they should not be sympathetic for anyone in our country waving another flag and saying that they hate America. Death to America.
You know, we've seen California go off the deep end for some time
Google,
now.
I believe in you.
They are a sanctuary state. They provide free health care to illegal immigrants under 26.
Chat.
But a lot of people have been fleeing California because they're like, hey, it's really bad to live in a place like this. And they end up going to places like Colorado.
Yes.
So it seems
I feel like I'm going to have to learn how to use AI more and more. Just AI art is a little stanky for me, but stuff like this I think is fine.
Over the past decade or so, Colorado has been shifting heavier and heavier blue. And you just mentioned now they're allowing illegal immigrants to get licenses, which they can then register to vote. Often, this is automatic. When you get your license, they just check the
Who's going to tell them that California is not exactly accessible to everyone? How do you mean? Oh, wait. Wait, are you not seeing the ad? Oh, fuck. I mean, you get into some hot water, depending on how you administer that. But if you're like, hold on, what the fuck happened? The S&P is tanking right now? What's happening? Sorry, fuck the protests. Why is the where the fuck is and P tanking right now? What the fuck happened today? Oh, it's back. Yeah, I guess the trade talks with China or some shit.
the box, and then you're on that list. What do you do in your state? How do you deal with that? How do you reverse these trends?
Well, in Colorado, we are getting a lot of those Californians who have been priced out of California, but they're still bringing the policies that ultimately price them out of where they wanted to live, price them out of their own homes. But our state taxes are lower than California. And so they're coming there. They want the beautiful views. And then we also have a lot of these sanctuary policies at a state level. We prohibit our police officers, our local police, from coordinating with ICE agents. The city of Denver, I had Mayor Mike Johnston in before the Oversight Committee. And there's a policy there in Denver that says that they're...
No, I know. That's why I have not used AI to do shit like that. And I'm trying to figure out the balance of what it's okay to use for. I don't take much on trust, just as a general guiding principle, unless I really develop a good repertoire with somebody. But like technology and shit, yeah, I think what I have used it for, and it's been very helpful with, is a couple things. One, programming. It's great. It just does all the grunt code. I have a background in programming, so I can understand what's going on and I can modify it as such. That and like outline, source generation, stuff like that, it's pretty helpful for. then, I do my own research.
Employees, their city employees are prohibited and will be fined for communicating and coordinating with federal ICE agents. Now, that's not all federal agents, just ICE. So we do have some counties like Douglas County and Mesa County and others in Colorado who are suing Governor Jared Polis over these sanctuary policies because they want to work with ICE. They want to have that coordination. They want to have their communities safe. And unfortunately, there's policies there that have prohibited many of our counties in the past. So how we actually get this turned around, I don't know. Maybe parents will have enough after this legislative session. We just passed 1312 in Colorado, which says that if you dead name your child, if you don't provide gender affirming care or assistance, well, then they could be custodians of the state. So maybe parents will finally rise up and have enough and say, you guys have gone too far. You're spending our hard-earned tax dollars on illegals. The city of Denver, again, is slashing budgets because they are funding.
We'll see. We'll see. Okay, it's not that long. You guys okay if we just read this? If true, like I said, not taking it on trust. If at any point following the issuance of a valid license to marry issued pursuant to section, a party to the marriage presents the issuing county clerk and recorded with appropriate documentation of the party's name and change requests the issuance of a new license to marry, the county clerk shall issue. Okay, so it's name change shit. So let's find the parent. Board of Education, specific powers and duties, safe school plan to conduct and discipline code, safe school reporting, requirements, school response framework, To provide a learning environment that is safe, conducive to the learning process and free from unnecessary disruption, each school district board of education or institute charter school board for a charter school authorized by the Charter School Institute shall, following consultation with the school district accountability committee and school accountability committees, parents, teachers, administrators, students, student councils when available, where appropriate, the community at large. Jesus Christ, Colorado, fucking horrible bill writing. What? I'll link this bill if you want to try and find what the fuck they're talking about. Maybe like child's name. How are schools in Colorado? It depends. I don't. Civil union. Policies related to chosen name. As used in this section, local education provider means a school district, charter school authorized by a school district pursuant to Part 1, Article 30, Section 30.5 of this Title 22, a charter school authorized by the State Charter School Institute pursuant to Part 5, Article 30.5 of this Title 22, or a board, that operates one or more public schools or a facility. Local education provider or its employees, an educator or a contractor chooses to enact or enforce policy related to names. That policy must be inclusive of all reasons that a student might adopt a name that differs from the student's legal name. Okay. Chosen name means chosen name. This is all just definitions. License to marry. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. At least in this bill. Yeah, I don't I don't know anything about alias laws. It's just, I guess, if you're going to institute a policy on changing names, it applies to all names. Nothing burger. This is why you don't take anything on trust, kids.
Illegals rather than the projects they need to actually have Denver be one of the most beautiful cities in the nation, as it could be. We had one of our Denver health hospitals almost go bankrupt, and the state legislature had to send them $5 million to bail them out. We've cut our Denver police by 9%, and they're talking about cutting them even more, cutting services at the Denver International Airport, all because the illegal aliens are siphoning off money. So hopefully in Colorado, enough people say my vote does matter. I'm going to stand up against these radical policies. They're stripping our Second Amendment rights. They're going after our children, and they're allowing illegals to completely take over in Colorado. So hopefully we can have an uprising, but also we have a midterm election coming up. These radical policies, they're stripping our Second Amendment rights. They're going after our children, and they're allowing illegals to completely take over in Colorado. So hopefully we can have an uprising, but also we have a midterm election coming up.
How is Florida #1 in higher education? Bro, what? I don't... Huh? Let's see. Let's see where my college has ended up here.
And the turnout isn't that great. We usually have top name Democrats at the top of the ticket, and Republicans don't show up. It's rare that a lot of people show up in those elections. So whatever we can do to encourage that turnout would be huge. But a lot of these decisions are...
I always think it's funny. I will always love the fact that the program I went to is on par with Cornell. That's so funny. And it's an Indiana state school.
Are made at the state level, like from the Secretary of State when it comes to our elections. And that's really unfortunate.
Yes, I am a business major.
People need to vote in their state elections, their state rep, their state legislators. That is going to reshape the districts. It's going to make sure...
The department may amend a sex designation for an individual's driver's license three times upon the individual's request. Any further request from the individual for required... Okay. Does it matter? Why not? I don't have an issue with that at all. You pay the DMV a fee. They update your driver's license. Just as long as people aren't lying to their well, I think the only time it really matters is for medical shit. And then you just say to your doctor, hey, I was assigned male at birth, but I go as female. I don't really have an issue with that at all.
At the federal level, you're getting better representation.
I don't know how often
but
TSA does
I do fear that what we're seeing in a place like Colorado, for instance, is just a microcosm of the macro, in that Democrats use illegal immigration in a variety of ways to secure just an imbalance of power. Be it they can control the flow of tax revenue towards certain groups under the guise of refugees, basically taking money away from anything.
I don't know. Maybe you have a thing on your license that says assigned what at birth. I don't know. I mean, say you're in a car. I'm not a medical professional. I'll but out of that much. Just probably have a way if it's, oh my God. Okay, hold on.
Thing that might go towards actual public services, and it finds its way into the hands of some NGOs who just so happen to be big contributors to Democratic candidates. Or in places like California, they get to vote in the Electoral College. So I think some estimates have them upwards of 10 extra congressional seats based on an illegal immigrant population. The challenge, I guess, is it makes it really difficult for you to reverse that when you're
Yes, we
what
do.
they're doing is
It's kind of working. It's only pulling from fucking New York Times, and it's supposed to pull from a lot more. I'm gonna tinker with it. Master Liberty. Right now I saw the news about U.S.-China deals. It's supposed fake news about Guantanamo and its 9,000 prisoners in the protests. Let's take a look.
giving themselves easier means to win elections and to win power and control the flow of that power.
Deal.
What I would just say is I think we need a cultural shift. Like you mentioned, the midterm turnout, that's
Did you
entirely
record it
built
back?
upon whether people are paying attention and they want to show up and they want to be involved. So I look at these riots across the country. They say this weekend, there's going to be thousands
All
of
right,
them.
brother, you're going to be number one on
Conservatives don't do that.
speedrunning.com.
I mean, for better or for worse. So I suppose, I don't know if you have any final thoughts on anything related to this stuff, anything you want to add before we go?
Well, yeah, we're seeing these advertisements right now for these No King protests. They're called protests right now. We'll see what they turn out to be. I think they will end up being riots, many of them, scheduled all throughout our nation. They said, while everyone is focused on Washington, D.C. and President Trump having a Flag Day and honoring the Army's 250th birthday, they said, we are going to focus throughout the rest of the country. And you have the heirs of Walmart, I guess, coming out and supporting this. And, this is something that we've got to pay attention to, because they are trying to envision.
Okay, what are those several reasons that you have an issue with, though? Like the medical one, I get.
Infiltrate our entire nation. I mean, even Colorado, the little towns that are scheduled to have these protests on Saturday, it's alarming. We don't know what their ultimate goal is. Are they going to be burning flags? Are they going to be lewd? Are they going to be violent? And I don't know, are they going to have more Molotov cocktails in Colorado? So we've got to stay vigilant. We've got to support President Trump and what he is doing. I think now is a call more than ever to pass this big, beautiful bill. I know there will be some edits. I don't know what that final version looks like. And I hope it's something that doesn't change too much that I can't support it. But we've got to fund ICE. We've got to fund Border Patrol and give President Trump the tools that he needs to deliver on the mandate that he was given. We'll have a couple more opportunities for some bigger legislative pieces that we can address things. We have the rescissions package that we'll be voting on.
Okay. Medical, what do you mean bona fide qualifications? Sex segregation laws, you're talking about like bathrooms and shit? Sports requirements? Yeah, not. But what is that? What does that? Your ID? I feel like if you passed a rule, it's like, hey, if you're trans, you can or can't. I don't know how much your ID would matter in that instance.
It's $9 billion that we're taking back. I want
like
more rescissions package. I would love it if the White House sent us one every week to vote on. But we'll have that this week, and it's at least a good start. But President Trump is doing amazing. He has great people around him.
That's enough out of you. Let's look at the